This is a blogcast by UX Design Agency. Listen to our blog articles in audio format and get all the latest insights and knowledge about creating demanded digital financial products with the power of UX design. 7 customer experience blind spots you need to know to uncover digital banking breakthrough. How would you react if your company spent $500,000 and 2 years on developing a new app, and after launching it, the customer satisfaction decreased? There are several non-obvious factors that can completely sabotage all of the huge investments and efforts taken in creating a digital experience in banking or fintech. There's no doubt that a great customer experience is mandatory to retain a competitive advantage in the digital world. Despite that, the efforts to improve UX and CX do not always lead to success due to certain critical blind spots. Failure can happen to any project, regardless of the budget size or the efforts of the team. In fact, if implemented inaccurately, it can lead to losses caused by the so-called experience gap. This was the case for a certain bank that invested nearly $500,000 to improve its mobile banking app, but it resulted in a decrease of the overall customer satisfaction. The root cause of it was the existence of several internal experience gaps at different levels of the financial company that the team failed to spot and prevent. How can you identify and avoid these blind spots in time to protect the success of expensive, large-scale digitalization projects? UX, CX efforts can fail even with huge budgets. In the last decade, a huge amount of research has been carried out confirming the priority influence of customer experience on companies' market efficiency. If negative CX leads to multiple business problems, then positive CX increases referrals, retention rates, and revenue, because 86% of customers are ready to pay more for a better customer experience, according to the Oracle report. It would seem that the solution is simple. To see a significant increase in profits, it's enough to provide an exceptional customer experience. But in practice, this is not always easy. 80% of CEOs believe that they deliver a superior experience, while only 8% of customers agree with that. The main reason for that can be explained through the experience gap, which is the negative difference between customers' expectations and the experience they get from a financial digital service. If the experience is significantly worse than expected, it can have many unpleasant consequences, such as decreased customer loyalty, tons of negative reviews, and even customers who decide to drop the brand. In most cases, the real experience gap is not recognized. The leaders and employees of the company do not understand what needs to be improved and why, even if they feel that something is wrong. If something is not consciously realized, it is not possible to overcome it. Real-life example: experience gap in action. To explain the way that experience gap might cause trouble, I'd like to share a real-life example. Several years ago, a well-known and respectable Central European bank embarked on a voluminous digital transformation journey. The bank's application had a rating of 3.5 and was outdated. In order to digitalize and improve the bank's image and the competitive chances in the growing digital market, management set out to urgently create and launch a modern-looking banking application. The initial design and development period of which was 6 months. Nevertheless, the bank ended up spending 3 times as much time building the new application by themselves. 1 year and 8 months. This was a serious project in both time and budget invested. Judging by the scope of the project, the improvements made, and the timeline, the overall costs were estimated to be $500,000. However, the result did not live up to expectations at all. After the new application was released, it decreased to 2.4 stars from the previous 3.5 and kept dropping, even a year after its first release. Not only did it not improve, but it significantly damaged the customer experience. How could this happen if the bank did everything to improve the user experience and the whole team worked hard for almost 2 years? In this case, there was an experience gap. Despite the fact that dozens of the bank's top professionals had spent 20 months and $500,000 on creating an improved product, it had failed to meet customer expectations. Even though the real reason for customer dissatisfaction is the unconscious experience gap, often the financial companies tend to explain it away by blaming external circumstances, such as changes in the market, the activity of competitors, the emergence of innovations, and changes in consumer patterns. Of course, there's objective truth in that, but a company capable of effectively adapting uses these factors for its growth, not as a scapegoat. The most important way to effectiveness of adaptation can be measured by how well the company's service meets or even exceeds the expectations of the customers. Companies that are unaware of the gap between their service and customer expectations are unable to adapt. In some cases, the company's actions can even cause the experience gap to broaden to critical levels. This often leads to an alarming drop in demand for the company's products and services. If we return to the example, it seemed that management was confident about the success of the significant improvements made, and they devoted large funds and efforts to advertising. The ads promoting the brand new, modern, innovative, and user-friendly mobile app caused overestimated expectations among the customers that significantly exceeded the actual quality of the service. As a result, when the product was finally released, the customers were surprised to find out that not only were their expectations not met, but that the new app was even worse than the old one. This led to a massive wave of negative reviews on the App Store, Google Play, and social media. People were tweeting about their struggles surrounding the bank's failed digitalization project. Lack of awareness of the gap is the main threat. Let's explore how the gap was formed between the digital service and user expectations and why no one was able to prevent it. In fact, the biggest challenge is that these types of gaps often go unnoticed in the organization. Their reasons are not obvious and are found at several levels of the organization. Moreover, their influence is so imperceptible that it leads to unexpected destructive consequences. In the end, no one understands what's the reason until the team faces the product failure in the market. The main difficulty in bridging the gap is that the higher the hierarchy level, the higher the unawareness of the experience gap. In fact, the root cause of the gap is usually found at the top of the hierarchy. The lower in the hierarchy, the more employees feel the problems and gaps, but they often do not have the authority and ability to eliminate them since they are constrained by the company culture. In this particular case, the support department received thousands of calls every day about the struggles caused by the new product. But due to fragmented business processes, they were unable to do anything about it. Customer frustration continued to grow. They faced issues that made it difficult to execute even the simplest everyday scenarios. But the support they got from the bank's employees was that they were not the only ones struggling and that the bank was busy working on new features instead of fixing the current ones. What complicates things even more is the fact that the internal processes behind the experience gap are caused by the same mechanisms that have facilitated company survival and growth in the past. Since every organization has inertia, these mechanisms are supported by inner beliefs and values and create resistance to attempts to recognize and close the experience gap, first and foremost at the management level. Thus, the lower they are in the hierarchy, the further from leadership and closer to clients, the more the gap is felt and recognized. Naturally, frontline workers will experience the most feedback. They got it from the clients whose expectations are not being met. The 7 types of experience gaps. The main experience gap may be caused by blind spots in one or several of the 7 levels of the company. Those are culture, feedback, execution, design, value, brand promise, and emotional connection. The culture gap. The lack of customer centricity in a company's culture prevents employees from bringing the service closer to customer expectations. This forms a culture gap. The processes and activities that contribute to customer centricity in a company with a culture gap will not take priority, and resources will not be allocated to them. The feedback gap. Lack of data about customer expectations and their experience with a product or service creates a gap of feedback. Here, financial companies often even collect the data, but it's not analyzed and no action is taken to improve the situation. The design gap. This gap is associated with poor design execution. If user-centered product design is not a priority, decisions and efforts to create the financial product and service are of low quality and efficiency. This determines the company's ability to create competitive services and products in the digital age. The execution gap. Even if a customer-centered approach is a priority, a large amount of data about customer expectations is collected, there could still be a gap concerning the design competence and methodology. Having the right expertise in place allows them to build a high-quality ecosystem of digital products that will provide the best possible service according to customer needs. The value gap. The value gap can form if the design ecosystem is not in compliance with user expectations at the 5 levels of the value pyramid. And those are functionality, usability, aesthetics, status, and mission. Gap of overpromise. As the example with the bank demonstrates, if a company aggressively promotes its service, promising something that the product is not able to provide, it will lead to even higher disappointment in user expectations. As a result, the negative assessment of the service could double since the advertising promises don't meet reality. Emotional gap. If brand communication is purely informational, focused on functional features, an emotional connection with users can't be formed. Since humans make decisions based on emotions, building service value on an emotional basis has a positive effect on customer expectations and the end user experience. Bridging the experience gap. Each client unconsciously evaluates the service they receive according to their expectations. The emotions caused by the quality of user experience form the brand's reputation. In the modern world, digital channels have become the main marketing and PR of the brand. A negative experience with a mobile application can sabotage all the efforts of brand promotion, even if it has a 100-year-long history of serving clients and an excellent service on other channels. It's simply because in the digital age, the mobile channel dominates, and for some, it's becoming the only way to interact with the brand. That's why it's so important to be aware of the ways to bridge these 7 experience gaps that might arise when creating digital products. Bridging the culture gap. When it comes to culture, the transformation begins with top management adopting a customer-centered experience mindset and spreading this influence throughout the entire culture of the company and its inner values. Bridging the feedback gap. In our particular example with the bank, the first step to start bridging the gap would be to dive deep into the most common complaints shared on social media and calls to the support department. These are the clients who are closest to the gap. In fact, they have more insight into fixing it than management does, and they are often eager to actively share their emotions and be heard. If a company is open enough and ready for its critics, it can use its data to bridge the gap and improve agility. Bridging the design gap. To create a strategy for overcoming the design gap through the integration of the design approach and design thinking, a design pyramid can be used. This framework determines the 5 levels at which design integration will significantly increase the overall efficiency of the company. The process, the team, the actions, the results, and the value. Bridging the execution gap. Financial UX design methodology provides a step-by-step system for designing digital financial products that live up to the customer expectations and are able to bridge the execution gap. This approach includes design thinking, the Be-Up frame, and a wide range of UX design tools. Bridging the value gap. Creation of true value and benefit for the customers begins at a functionality level of the product and expands through delivering an exceptional usability, aesthetics, status, and finally, a mission statement that builds a community around it. Bridging the gap of overpromise. The customers of the digital age demand transparency, care, honesty, and open communication. Due to the network effect, it has become nearly impossible to sell a bad quality product because everyone can post negative feedback on social media, which deeply damages customer trust. So it's crucial to make promises that can be not only fulfilled, but even exceeded. Bridging the emotional gap. Empathy and care toward customers is more important than ever. Building an emotional connection between the brand and its clients is essential to ensure long-term loyalty and demand. This connection is built through all of the aforementioned stages: a customer-centered mindset, collecting feedback and making improvements based on it, using the right tools and methodology to create product design and the ecosystem, creating true value and benefit, and finally, by being honest and over-delivering on promises. Pathway toward becoming a beloved financial brand. This covers the 7 main experience gaps that can sabotage the creation of digital financial products, as well as the 7 bridges that can help you to avoid and solve them. The financial brands that are aware of these blind spots can instantly gain a significant market advantage over their competitors who are still in the blind zone. Awareness alone makes a huge difference, but awareness combined with action leads to long-term success in becoming a greatly demanded and beloved financial brand. This was the audio version of UXDA's blog article. If you wish to read the full version and gain insights from our other articles, visit UXDA's blog at uxdesignagency.com or find us on Medium by the name of UXDA. Let's add emotions to banking and transform the financial industry together.